Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Awesome Sauce EDU podcast, where we're trying to shine the spotlight on some really cool things happening in my classroom and other classrooms across the country. I'm still working on getting some guests for the 2021 podcasting year. And so if you're interested in being on the show, just give me a shout out on Twitter. You can find me at Teach Like a Ninja. I would love to have you on the show. This is you can follow me on YouTube. Just search for me at Josh Stock. You can also find me on any of your podcasting platforms, Spotify, you name it, I'm on there. The Awesome Sauce EDU show. This was formerly the Kansas Moonshot podcast, where I was interviewing people in the state of Kansas, but that seems so limiting because there's so many amazing educators across the state. There's so many cool things going on. So I expanded it out. Awesome Sauce EDU is the new header that gives me a lot more opportunities to talk to great people and to kind of share out some of the things that are going on in my world and some of my views on education. So all of that being said, I'm so glad you are with me. If you're on YouTube, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, post some comments. I would love to respond and interact with all of you. If you're on listening to the podcast version of this, please definitely hit that subscribe button. Share it out with any of your colleagues that you think would benefit from this. Now, I have a couple of things to go over in this week's episode. I'm going to keep it short and sweet and to the point. I was just going to share an activity that I did just recently. We're studying nouns, verbs, and adjectives. So this week, it's a lot more focused on one specific strategy. So if that's not for you, if you just want the big ideas, the inspirational, woohoo, you got this speech, that's not really this episode. This episode is all about a specific strategy that I used. So we are studying nouns, verbs, adjectives. It's just a review activity, and I was trying to find a good way to engage. I hate teaching grammar. It is always one of the most challenging things for me because in school I hated grammar lessons, so I always try to find ways to keep it engaging. What I did for this lesson to keep it engaging was I created, I'm calling it a reverse Mad Libs. Here's how it worked. My students had 5 minutes to write a paragraph about a topic. In this case, I had them writing about space because they're learning about space in their science class. Now, I kept it very open-ended in general. They could write about space exploration. They could write about the day they discover aliens. They could write about what their coolest rocket ship looked like. Honestly, I didn't really care what they were writing about. All I cared was that they got a paragraph down on paper, because that was all prep work for the next phase. Now, the reason why I had them write their own paragraph is because when you're doing a grammar lesson with someone else's work, you're one step removed from it. But when you are doing some work with something that you have actually written, you have a lot more investment in it, and hopefully it's something that is interesting to you. So I'm trying to do more work in grammar lessons with things the students have actually written themselves. So the students have a paragraph that they wrote. At the end of that 5 minutes, we wrapped it up. Even if their paragraphs were not done, as long as they had a few sentences written down, this would work. Once they had their paragraphs, I asked them, first we reviewed, I asked the class, what is a noun? Once they knew what a noun was, they went and they circled 3 nouns in their writing. Great. Okay, so they've got their paper, they've got their story, they have 3 nouns circled. And then I used my phone. I use my phone a lot in class for random number generators. So I just said, hey Siri, give me a number between 1 and 35. Because there are 35 seats in my room. I don't have 35 students, but my seating arrangements is listed 1 through 35 to give me an opportunity to spread kids out more. So ask Siri to give me a random number, and that student gives me another noun that I write on the board. So I write 3 different nouns on the board, and some of you can see where this is going with the Mad Lib style. Once I have my nouns written on the board, I tell the students, all right, you know those 3 nouns you circled in your story? Cross them out and replace it with the nouns on the board. And they're like, what? This is going to make my story so weird. I'm like, yes, this is going to be fun. They took their stories, they replaced their nouns in their story with the nouns from the board. The next step, we reviewed adjectives. So we talked about, okay, adjectives are describing words. Great. Again, use the random number generator, get 3 random adjectives, and write those on the board. Then I tell the students, write that adjective next to your new nouns. And it was great. I had one student who said she had, her story became a story about twins named Rainbow McDonald's and Sparkly Fries. I'm like, wow, this is going to be fun. This is interesting. So they loved it. Then we reviewed verbs. And again, I had them circle 2 verbs in their story. By now, the kids got the hang of it, so they got some really fun verbs in there. And they replaced it with verbs. All in all, it took me more time to explain it to you guys than it did for me to do the final, like, replacing the words and such. It took maybe 10 minutes total for the entire activity, including the 5 minutes of writing. This is a way, if you're trying to do some sort of grammar review, even if you don't teach language arts, if you teach another subject area, this is something that would help all students. Even if you think, man, my students are too old for that, they're probably not. I'm surprised at how many students struggled with nouns, verbs, and adjectives, those basic foundational blocks. So talk to your language arts teachers and ask them, what are you teaching in grammar right now, and how can I incorporate that into my classroom? Because there are so many ways that we can reinforce what's going on for other classes in our own. Too many times we get stuck in these little silos of, this is what I'm teaching, this is my bubble that I'm teaching from, and we're not interacting with what's going on in our other classes. And I'm guilty of that as well. I get my own little language arts bubble, we talk about what we're studying, and I often forget to incorporate the things that are going on in some of their other subject areas. I thought I'd share this activity. Feel free to use it, tailor it. I'd love to know how you adapt it for your own classroom or anything that you think would help enhance this activity. This also led to a really fun, interesting debate that we had. So we were looking at nouns, verbs, and adjectives, and one of my students suggested peanut butter as a noun, and that stumped me. So if any of you grammar people out there, grammarians who are fantastic at grammar, and you can help me with this. Now, I looked it up in the dictionary, and the dictionary defines peanut butter as a singular noun. But we had some really good discussions about, okay, so is peanut butter, is it the noun butter that is being enhanced with the adjective of peanuts, or is it one singular noun by itself? So is it a noun and an adjective, or just a noun? And we had some great discussions about it. We played around with it a little bit. I asked my language arts teacher colleagues in my building, and we were all split on it, like what exactly it was, which is what I also tell my students. It's messy. There's not, you don't have to know the all the way down to the nitty gritty. There are things that you're going to debate and that you're going to wrestle with and try to figure out. And as long as you have a foundation of it, you'll be okay with most of what you're going to conquer. So that is all I've got for this episode. I just want to thank you for listening. A huge shout out. One of my students told me that he actually listens to each of my episodes. I think he said he watches it on YouTube. So shout out to August. Woo-woo! Way to go, August. Watching my YouTube channel, YouTube videos. You're awesome. So if you're watching this, shout out to you, August, for checking out what your goofy teacher's doing. That is all I've got. Like I said, you can always find me on Twitter at Teach Like a Ninja, Instagram at Teach Like a Ninja, pretty much all the platforms at Teach Like a Ninja. I also have a side for students, and again, those platforms are all at Mr. Stock Rocks. And so follow me on all those social media channels. Give me a shout out. I'm most prevalent on Twitter. I use Instagram somewhat. If you watched last week's episode or listened to last week's episode, I talked a lot about how I automate a lot of the things that I put on Instagram because I'm not the best at it. Still trying to figure out TikTok. I actually created a new TikTok video right at the beginning of the year, the 2021 year, and it did not go well. I recorded a TikTok video. I was like, oh, this is awesome, and I just posted it. Didn't go back and watched it until one of my students commented on it, and I noticed that I hit mute about 2 seconds into the video, and so the whole thing was muted. That just sums up my current interactions with TikTok. However, I'm becoming more of a consumer on TikTok right now, just kind of trying to figure out how to best utilize that tool. I know there's some great educators that are using it and using it effectively. So I want to be better at my TikTok game. I'm excited. I took my my first paycheck from my book, Awesome Sauce, which you can find it at all of your major retailers. I'm looking around to see if I've got it behind me. There it is. All right. Awesome Sauce. Definitely check it out. But I took my first royalties check ever, which was very cool feeling, and I actually bought a new computer for home. I got a Mac Mini, so I'm excited to play around with that and play around with some of the video editing features of that. That is all I've got for today. Again, you can find more information on this and all the things I'm working on at my website, MrStockRocks.com. Find me on social media at Teach Like a Ninja or at Mr. Stock Rocks. You can email me at teachlikeaninja@gmail.com. Until next time, book it forward and be awesome. Bye, guys.